Good morning to all of y'all. Today we are going to do Landscape of the Soul. Now this lesson, what does it deal with? It deals with a comparative study of both the Chinese and the European paintings. It also touches upon various subtleties of reality and art. Now do y'all all know what is art? Art is one of the forms of expression like poetry, music, and dance. All these forms of expression have an abstract nature. They cannot be defined. They have to be felt and experienced. Now there are three important areas of discussion in this article. One is anecdotes related to Chinese and European paintings. One is Daoism, and the other is how one of the philosophical doctrines of Daoism, called Sanshu, is reflected in Chinese paintings. Now, what do you mean by anecdotes? Anecdotes are the stories. Now, the author of this article is an art expert. She is from Flanders, Holland. She writes about the essential differences between the Eastern and the Western paintings. She also contrasts Chinese art by using two stories. Now, the first story that she tells us is about Wu Daozi, who lived in the 8th century, and he was assigned to decorate a palace wall by Tang Emperor Xuanzong. It was his last painting. The painter hid his work behind the screen, in which only the emperor could see it. The emperor, when he looked at the screen, at the painting, he admired all the things that were in the painting, like discovering forests, high mountains, waterfalls, floating clouds, men on the hilly paths, and birds in the flight. Then the painter made him look at the cave in the painting, which was at the foot of the mountains, and it was compared with a living spirit. The painter clapped his hands, and what happened? The entrance of the cave opened, and he asked the emperor to come inside and see the beauty inside the cave. The painter first entered the cave, and as he entered it, what happened? The entrance closed. The emperor could not enter the cave. And suddenly, the painting also vanished, and the painter also vanished, and both of them were never seen again. So these were the stories which were the part of China's classical education. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi, they are full of them. They help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. Behind this anecdote, they are deeply revealing of the spirit in which the art was considered. The story went beyond to relieve the real spirit and importance of art in the Chinese culture. There is another story in contrast of the first story, that one famous painter did not draw the eye of a dragon. When everyone asked him, why don't you draw the eye of a dragon? He said, I have a fear that it will fly out of the painting. That is why I have not drawn the eye of the dragon. So, to prove this point, he narrated a story of the Western painting. He said that there was one person, a blacksmith. He was Antwerp, called Count Matzes. He had fell in love with the painter's daughter. But the father of the daughter, he said, I do not want you to be the son-in-law because you are not in my profession. So what did Quentin do? One day, he went into the painter's studio and he painted a fly on his latest panel with such delicate realism that even the master, he thought that it was a real fly and he tried to sweat it. But after that he realized that it was a painting in it. So Quentin, when they came to know that he had done it, he was admitted an apprentice into his studio. He was taken under his training. He was married to his beloved. And they went on to become the most famous painter of his age. Now see, these are the two stories, if you see. They are each form of art which are trying to achieve, which are saying that there is a perfect allusionistic likeness in Europe. While in Asia, it is the essence of inner life and spirit, which makes it seems like real. Now, the technique of using these pictorial methods were to deceive the eye. In European paintings, they revealed more clarity. European paintings were associated, they reproduced an actual view of reality. We had to see through the eyes of the painter in Chinese paintings, but in European, it is what we view. The closer it is to the real, the better. The landscape, they said, in the European painting is a copy of the real landscape because it doesn't represent any inner reality. उसके अंदर कोई inner reality नहीं है. There is no meaning inside it. It tries for an illusionistic likeness with the real. It tries to show us that it is associated with the real thing. The European painters, they just want the viewer to choose a single viewpoint. Means that there should be no mental participation of the viewer. Whatever the viewer wants to think, it should be his own viewpoint in seeing the European paintings. While on the other hand, in Asia, the aim of the painting was to depict the essence of inner life and spirit, means mentally you have to take the eyes of the painter and then you have to see through it. Now this Chinese painting, they convey a message that the artist knows the way within. He knows how to get through it. And he reaches his goal beyond material appearance. A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to produce an actual view, as what a Western figurative painting does. जैसे वेस्टर्न की पेंटिंग्स होती है वैसे चाइनीज लैंडस्केप नहीं होता है. We can one enter from any point and travel into the Western figurative painting. But in Chinese landscape, we need to have active participation, both physically and mentally. Because the Chinese painter, he wants us to enter his mind. He wants us to see his painting from his thoughts. The landscape which is created by Chinese artists is spiritual, inner, and of conceptual or abstract space. Now, this concept is known as San Shu, which literally meant mountain water. And both of them are used together to represent the word landscape. Now, the two elements of an image of these represents are the two complementary poles, and they reflect the Taoist view of the universe. A Taoist view of the universe, what is it? It is that they say that Yang is the mountain which reach vertically towards the heaven. That is stable, it is warm, and it is dry in the sun. While they say that water is yin, it rests horizontally on the earth. It is fluid, it is moist, and it is cold. Now they say that yin, water, is a feminine aspect of universal energy. There are two energies where yang is active and masculine and yin is feminine. So the fundamental notion of Taoism is that these two forms of energy interact. They say that when these two energies interact. Another important aspect which is often overlooked in essential third element is the middle void. Now what is void? Void is where we say the space, and they say that it is in this space, in this emptiness, the interaction takes place. They compare this even to the yogic practice of pranayama, where we breathe in, retain, and then breathe out. The suspension of breath that takes place in the void where meditation occurs. So that is why they say that this middle void is very essential. बहुत ज़रूरी है. It is very essential. Nothing can happen without it. Hence the importance of the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape when they say that is the middle void. And man plays a fundamental role between the heaven and the earth, means between yang and between yin. And they say that he becomes the conduct of communication between each pole of the universe. His presence is essential, it's very essential, and that is why it is said that far being lost or oppressed by the lofty peaks. It is said that he is the Francois Cheng's wonderful expression as the eye of the landscape. He is the eye of the landscape. जो human being है, that one, the man is the eye of the landscape. Finally, in this lesson, the author talks about the concept of art brut. Now, this art brut is also called as outsider art. Art brut is one kind of art where the artists do not have any formal training, but yet they have the artistic talent and insight in them. She refers to them as one who think outside the box. These are the people who think outside the box and they defy the normal standards which are for painting. People refer to their work as unorthodox art. And one of the most examples is in India, that is of Nek Chand's work at the Rock Garden in Chandigarh. That is a form of art brut.